You're listening to the Planet 76 podcast, a podcast about 76ers basketball, and we're cleared for takeoff. Let's go. What's going on, Sixers fans? Welcome to episode 51 of Planet 76. Your Sixers are trailing 2-0 in the Eastern Conference semifinals. We're recording on Thursday between games 2 and 3, so Sixers are going to get their shot at the Miami Heat on Friday night at the Wells Fargo Center at 7 o'clock. And we're going to kind of recap where we've been. I mean, our last full-length episode, Michael, we were pretty happy because we didn't know about the Joel Embiid seriousness of that injury, I guess, if you can say it that way. And boy, things have changed in the last week, haven't they?
Yeah, we it feels like it's been a while since we recorded, but like Troy just said, it's only been a week, and I feel like that's partly due to what's going on with the Sixers, what's going on with Joel Embiid, and like Troy said, we're gonna get into that in this episode. But yeah, lot of a change in emotions for us here on the pod. So
yeah, it certainly is. And then I saw that. So like even today, I don't follow all Philadelphia sports, but I saw the Phillies blew a 6 or 7 run lead in the ninth inning. In the ninth inning tonight against the Mets.
My gosh!
So it's been quite the day, quite the week, I guess, for Sixers fans and Philadelphia sports fans in general. But again, this is Planet 76. That's Michael. I'm Troy, and we're gonna get it rolling. We're gonna kind of again just let it out a little bit, probably on this episode, and talk about the first couple games down in Miami and how the Sixers couldn't get the job done, what led to that, and how much they're missing Mr. Joel Embiid, of course, and preview Game 3. Because even in my Planet 765 recap yesterday, I said that after Game 2 that the Sixers are not dead yet, and they're not. Is it looking good? Absolutely not. But they're not dead yet, and so there's still a glimmer of hope, and so maybe we can spark something here from Planet 76. But the most recent piece of news coming today at the 5 p.m. report is that Joel Embiid is out as of now. Michael, correct me if I'm wrong. The reason he's listed as out and not questionable or doubtful is because he has not yet cleared concussion protocol. That's why he's out. If he clears that hypothetically tomorrow morning, he could possibly play.
Yeah, that's from what I got. It was if Embiid can't clear protocols, he cannot be listed as anything besides for being out. Okay. And it does make sense because if he can't clear the protocols, he can't play, which would mean he's out for the game. So that makes total sense. But like Troy just said, the catalyst is that he definitely could clear protocols before the game tomorrow. And I think the deadline is 5 p.m. because the injury report deadline today was 5 p.m. I know for a fact. So I'm assuming it's a daily thing, which would mean tomorrow at 5 p.m. as well, which happens to be only a few hours before tip-off. So hypothetically speaking, again, like Troy just said, he could be cleared for tomorrow, possibly, maybe, potentially.
Maybe, yeah. Potentially, hopefully, although I would say probably don't get your hopes up. I mean, again, you see 24 hours before the game that he's listed as out because he hasn't cleared yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're wrong. I mean, hopefully he gets the go-ahead, and hopefully he's okay to get the go-ahead. We don't want Michael had a post today saying, we don't want Joel to force the issue and those kind of things because his health and safety obviously come first, especially dealing with a concussion. So,
right.
On today's episode, we're going to, again, break down the first couple games, talk about that. Even, Michael, your posts this week have been very good, I will say, as a fan of the Trust the Love page. You mentioned, at least in a couple of posts, I think, that you think the first 2 games in Miami were winnable games, and we're going to get to that because I want your take on why you think that, and then we're going to look ahead to Game 3 tomorrow night at the Wells Fargo Center. So, let's just go Game 1. What did you see in Game 1? Good, bad, and different. The Sixers led by 1 at halftime. Without giving too much into the question as to why you think they could have won, but what did you see?
Well, Harris looked really good, again, even before the game concluded, as Troy has here. He had 27 points. Harris looked really good. It was a competitive game, really, until halftime. Sixers had a few leads. Again, 1 point lead at half. I think they were also up another point in the first half as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like it was going to be a competitive game. And both games, similar with both games, the Heat jumped out to a huge lead. Sixers couldn't quite come back or even cut it close, particularly close in both games. And again, both games ended in pretty decent, not quite a huge blowout, but on the verge of a blowout, basically.
Right. Yeah, I think what stuck out to me from game one was how close it was at halftime. I mean, I was excited. I was like, let's go. We're up one at half. I was watching with my dad, who was up here visiting, and I was like, you couldn't ask for anything better than that. You're up one at halftime against the Miami Heat without your star player. So it felt good, and then the second half came along, and they just couldn't hang. It got, obviously I think it was early in the fourth when it kind of got away from the Sixers, and Bam Adebayo was huge in that one. He was a plus 26 in the plus minus category in 34 minutes, so he played a huge role. Kind of no answer for him. Tyler Hero had 25 points off the bench in just 29 minutes. We couldn't stop him, could we?
Flamethrower, dude.
We went to the zone, or there was one. I think we called a timeout immediately after. Tyler Hero was wide open at the top of the key because of some sort of miscommunication. I was like, "That's what you want. That's literally a layup for him."
Yeah.
As wide open as he was, and the big stat I think that stuck out to me is how poorly each team shot from three. The Sixers were 6 for 34 from three, and you could say the same for game two, what they shot. But they were 8 for 30 from three in game two. But it's man, you imagine if a couple threes fall, how different a game that could have been. But Miami was 9 for 36 from three in game one, which is 25%. You kind of knew that in game two they were going to step that up. That was my takeaway from game one. I was like, oh man, they're probably going to hit. Yeah. So I was like, oh boy, that could be tough for game two. But yeah, I mean, even as we mentioned, kind of, before we started recording, these were kind of similar games. Why do you say that? Because you mentioned it to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right down to from the game as a whole, right down to the stats of the game. Mm-hmm. Break down stats here. Game one, Sixers 6 for 34 from three in game one. Game two, 8 for 30 from three. We're talking about a 2 attempt difference in threes for the Sixers. Down to that. The score, I mean, I forget the exact final score. Oh, here it is, actually. Oh, not that similar.
So a 14-point game and a 16-point game. Yeah.
Sixers scored 92. Well, that's like 9 points. Whatever. I'm going to try.
But the point differential alone.
Point differential, yes. Yeah. And the way that the game was unfolded, I mean, the game was close in the first half. Heat built up a huge lead. Sixers can't come back. Game one. Game two, same thing happens. Game one, the bench plays poorly. Sixers lose. Game two, the bench plays poorly. Sixers lose. Only difference in game two was that Harden played way better. Maxey played way better. Mm-hmm. Harris played well in game one and game two. So we see these similarities. We see the exact same things happening. The only thing that we don't see is the bench playing well. We see them playing poorly, which, again, is one of the only common factors in both games. Mm-hmm. It's glaring to me that had the bench done anything other than what it did in game one and game two, we're talking about maybe not wins, but we're talking about games that are way closer. We're talking about games that are way more competitive in the third and fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. We're talking about this team, guys like George Niang, Shake Milton, and to Shake's credit, I guess, he only played 1 minute, and it was when the game was over in game two. But
yeah, I had a problem with that.
Yeah, game one, Niang over 7 from 3. That's not okay. Game two, Niang, 6 fouls. He fouls out in 10 minutes. That's talent. And And same exact thing. Thibault, non-existent, just nowhere to be found on offense. Milton, game one, was horrible on offense. No production, no scoring, nothing. That's not Green. Second game, 1 for 9 from 3. Now, okay, he's done this in the regular season too, but it's a playoff game, man. I like that you're
and
shooting.
you're Mr. 3 rings.
Yeah, Danny 3 rings. I like that he's shooting because that's what you want. You don't want him driving. You want him taking threes, wide open threes, which is what he got. Just bricks, just creating houses with these bricks. That's a guy. Him and Niang are guys that you need to have them make their threes. If they don't make their threes, their level of impact and their production is going to look horrible on paper, as we're discussing right now.
Yep, exactly. The other guy you mentioned, Matisse Thybulle, I saw a tweet today. I forget exactly what the wording was, but it was the fact that Precious Achua
I saw that.
as many made baskets as Matisse Thybulle does for the Sixers in the last 6 games or whatever, which is remarkable. If you don't remember, I don't know what game it was. Maybe game 5 against the Raptors. Precious Achua put the ball in for Matisse Thybulle after his missed
I
three.
remember that. I was there for that game. Oh my gosh, that was crazy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That was crazy.
So, the Sixers shooters, I mean, it killed them. Again, it's like this is turning into like the ultimate what if series to me.
Yeah.
Not only what if Joel Embiid played, but what if the Sixers made a few shots, man? Because you got a guy like Niang and Danny Green who filled it up from 3 this year consistently, and one goes 1 for 10 one game, the other goes 0 for 7 one game, and when he went 0 for 7 the next game, he played 10 minutes and fouled out in George Niang, and so it's like, man, if those guys just shoot half of what they as well as they normally do, this is a game. I remember thinking to myself in game 2, so I don't know how many straight points or how many, of the last X amount of points Tyrese Maxey scored for the Sixers in game 2, but it was a lot.
He was on fire.
He was the only one doing anything at the end of the third, early fourth quarter. It got to a point where it was an 8-point game with, 9-10 minutes left. And I'm like, okay, we need a couple buckets. We need a guy to make a 3. We need to get a couple stops. And we got a couple stops. We just couldn't make shots, because we were a couple made shots away from it being a 1-possession game. And then it's like it's game on, and we just couldn't get there. And it hurt, and it sucks. And it's like, man, what could have been.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, for why these 2 games were winnable games, Kyle Lowry didn't play in both games. Mm-hmm. And he's one of their best players offensively and defensively. Those are 2 opportunities you have to steal a game without Joel Embiid, but also without Kyle Lowry, who's one of their best players. And it's just like, with Embiid, a lot of what happened either gets masked or doesn't happen at all. A lot of what the Heat were able to do to the Sixers this series so far has really only been because Joel Embiid hasn't been there. Bam Adebayo scoring at will, basically.
Right.
No Joel Embiid, that's why. Bam Adebayo getting all these rebounds. No Joel Embiid, that's why. He can just feast.
Right.
I mean, the Heat getting points in the paint like they did. Jimmy Butler. Again, Bam Adebayo. No Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid masks and does so many things for the Sixers team, and we know when he's not playing, we see it, how the team plays without him, what it looks like. They don't look very good. Yeah. And the playoffs is magnified because when you're playing a team like the Heat, who are really good at exposing weaknesses, especially at the center position, then it's a lot more obvious.
They just look lost. I mean, there was, 2 shot clock violations in the late third, early fourth quarter where you just leave you scratching your head, and you're just thinking, what are they doing? Oh. There's absolutely, and I guess, we expected this. It just sucks to watch it play out. There's absolutely no inside presence.
No.
The only one scoring in the lane is Tyrese Maxey, who's the smallest guy on the floor. It's like, it just sucks, man, because it's, especially game 2, I noticed a lot of passing around the perimeter, watching James Harden dribble, pass it, someone shoots it, and they missed. You know what I mean? And that you can live with that if these guys are making shots, but they're not, and it hurts us.
That's my thing too. Why? I just have so many questions about NBA players in general, but one I will address right now. Why does James Harden not want to take over? Is it because he can't? Because he's getting defended really well? Maybe. Is it because he doesn't want to? Is it because he wants to pass too much? Why? And like you said, he passes, the guy doesn't make the shot. At that point, Harden, take the shots yourself. And he had a stretch in game 2 where he looked really good. He was driving, he was getting free throws, he was getting to the line. Do that, dude. Do it.
Yeah.
It's just really so infuriating when he's open and he doesn't shoot. I sound like I'm talking about he who shall not be named, but it's just like James Harden. Come on, dude. Please, you have open threes. Take them.
Yeah. I don't know what it is with him. I saw a thing today. In 29 games, James Harden's played 29 games for the Sixers. He has had 0 games where he's had 20 shot attempts. Think about that. This is James Harden.
That's not good. And he's had really solid scoring games, but he's a guy that thrives on high volume shooting and shot attempts.
Yeah.
So that's not good.
I do think the injury is bothering him. I don't think that was a lie, as he came over from Brooklyn. I think that's hampered him a little bit. And the thing with James Harden is he can still be very productive. If guys are making shots yesterday, he has 20 and 15 assists in a playoff game. Like, you'll take that, every single day of the week. And my thing with James Harden, I think he might be, or maybe I'm just scared to see him be very, very aggressive but not very efficient. You know what I mean? Because if he's not going to be efficient, I don't want to see him go 6 for 27. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
He's kind of lessening the blow if he only takes 13, 14, 15 shot attempts and he goes, 5 for 14. It doesn't look as ugly as a 7 for 22 or whatever you want to say. Some of that's in there. I think that's just me, but man, it just sucks to be down 2 and to think what could this series have looked like and all that fun stuff. But we are coming back to Philly tomorrow night. I will say this, one more thing to rant on, because we touched on it a minute ago. Shake Milton playing 1 minute in garbage time in game 2. It doesn't make sense to me.
What is that?
It doesn't make sense, especially because we've touched on it this entire episode. You're relying on guys who are shooting the ball, they're missing, and Shake Milton isn't a shooter. Shake Milton is a guy that created his own shot, and you need that, especially if James Harden's not doing it, if he doesn't have the explosiveness and all that. I don't know if it's a hot take, but I have a bit of a theory with Shake Milton. He's obviously had a slow, up and down, injury-prone year, but I think James Harden being here has affected him in a negative way, just by his role in the offense. So he's either out there with James Harden or Tyrese Maxey, so it seems to me that he's constantly deferring, either that in himself or that the plays just aren't for him because he's not Tyrese Maxey or James Harden. That's just kind of something I'm seeing, because when he's out there, it's not like he's getting the ball. It's not like he's getting his opportunity, and I would love to see Shake get an opportunity because you think about it, without Joel Embiid out there, he's the third, fourth best option we have to go get a basket.
To score the ball, yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know.
I definitely can understand he has to defer to other guys, because usually off the bench, he's not running. Before the Harden trade, he wasn't running with Maxey. Ordinarily, he wasn't running with Maxey. It was maybe him and Drummond and maybe Curry.
Right.
Sometimes not even Curry. Sometimes it was, when Korkmaz was still getting minutes, which kind of a tie-in here. I love Furkan to have his jersey, but why does he get minutes over Shake Milton? Furkan hasn't gotten consistent minutes since January. Why is he in? Why is he? Oh,
yeah, I completely agree with you.
Gosh,
and you just at this point in the series, you've missed enough shots as a team. You need someone that can just do something.
And Furk, to his defense, can do something, but. It's too late. The rotations are supposed to be set. It's May. It's the second round of the playoffs. You can't just be experimenting with lineups.
Yeah.
And to your point about the Harden Milton thing, I think, yeah, I think maybe, I maybe to tie into what you're saying, but I think Milton also hasn't properly adjusted because of that, and also because he also is getting less minutes,
Right.
similar to a guy like Korkmaz. Sure, why not? His role, to use the word deferring, his role has kind of dwindled a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, it's like even in this playoffs, you see him out there for a minute and a half, he gets a bucket, and he's back on the bench or something.
Yeah,
It's just like, dude,
it's not how you get players in groove.
right? Because I mean, Shea can go out and get 15,
He's a
20 in the
bucket.
playoffs. I fully believe that.
He did it last season too.
Yep, when we needed it against Atlanta, he had a big game. He sparked us. So the fact that he didn't play last night doesn't. I don't get it. I don't get it. So that's the other thing to rant about, I guess. I don't know if we want to come at Doc Rivers a little bit more, but we haven't. Surprisingly enough, we haven't mentioned DeAndre Jordan.
Gosh,
I don't know. And the way Glenn, as you would say, the way he kind of handles that post game, is just so arrogant and so like. Because the question wasn't even like rude.
No.
It's just a simple question.
You're talking about the one in the video that came out on Twitter?
Yeah, after game one.
Yeah. It was the guy didn't even. The guy was just totally neutral tone.
Right.
And here comes, oh well,
yeah, he wasn't
we like DeAndre.
We like DeAndre. We're gonna start him whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that wasn't the question. He was like, why aren't you starting DeAndre? He just kind of wanted him to talk about the minutes that he got and that kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, so DeAndre Jordan, if Joel Embiid does not come back, will certainly be getting the starting minutes. The one thing to note, obviously, Paul Reed did get more minutes in Game 2 than DeAndre did. I'm not sure about Game 1.
Yeah.
I will say this. The Sixers, who were up 1 at halftime, I do know that DeAndre Jordan was a minus 12 in his minutes, and the Sixers, without him on the floor, were a plus 13 in the first half of Game 1, and yet then Doc continued to play him in the second half until he got out of reach. So, yeah.
I'll save my Doc Rivers slander until after the playoffs because depending on what happens, I will have a lot to say. A lot of what I've said already, but more.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on to Game 3 tomorrow night. Many of you listening, or that's gonna be tonight for you on Friday at the Wells Fargo Center. Game 3. How do we bounce back? How do we? Obviously, it's going to look different with Joel Embiid, without Joel Embiid. Do you see any... Again, as a Sixers fan, I knew that coming into the series, if Joel doesn't play, we're not winning this series. No one was that dumb, I don't think. It certainly wasn't me. But, I don't know. You go. With or without Joel Embiid, just talk about our chances, I guess, tomorrow.
Well, without Embiid, the series is over. Just to put it simply for everyone listening and watching. But even without Embiid, the same applies. Kyle Lowry is still questionable. The bench needs to play better. And Harden and Maxey need to do what they did in Game 2. And if Embiid doesn't play, that puts them in a great spot to win the game. If Embiid does play, a lot of that could still not apply, and the Sixers still win because, like I said in the beginning of the episode, Joel Embiid does a lot for this team. And when the bench lacks, even when and if the bench lacks, Embiid is there and playing and doing what he does. Right. Even if Harden may lack, Embiid is there doing what he does. He makes up for a lot of what the Sixers lack or may lack on a night-to-night basis. So everything still applies, especially if Embiid doesn't play. Because, again, bench needs to play better. Kyle Lowry may not play. Need to take advantage of that. And what's the third thing I said? Harden and Maxey need to play like they did in Game 2.
Yeah. Okay.
These are constants in the series. Things that need to happen.
Yeah. I part of me is thinking, there's no way Niang and Danny Green are going to shoot like that.
There's
again.
No way, right? Right?
That's what I think. That's what I hope. That's what I think. And I also think that, again, it's not, if Joel doesn't play tomorrow, the Miami Heat look beatable. And it sucks that we don't have Joel to, prove that. But it's like, I don't know when Joel's going to come back if he does.
Yeah.
But if we can win Game 3 without him, because it's possible. If we make a few shots, we figure out a couple things, we don't give up as many offensive rebounds and all of that fun stuff, Matisse actually does something, you know what I mean? And he's not just a nothing on offense. Put him in the dunker spot, let him do something. I mean, what? So that's what we want. We want to see some made shots from the bench and some from Danny Green. But I mean, do you have expectations for how Game 3 is going to go?
No.
It's hard to, right? Because we don't know if Joel's going to go.
It's very hard to. And kind of like what you were saying, the Heat are a good team. They're very good. They're the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They're a very good team. I like the Heat a lot. They're really good. But the Sixers, again, even without Embiid, they can beat the Heat. They can do it. All it takes is everything that I said, which I don't think is, 1, a difficult ask, and 2, unrealistic.
Right.
Because this is what is supposed to be happening. I'm not asking Harden to go for a 50-point triple-double. That's not happening. I'm asking him to play the way he did Game 2. Maxey, extremely realistic. Play the way he did in Game 2. Bench. George Niang, I'm looking at you. Don't foul out, and don't shoot 0 for 7 from 3. Danny Green, please make a few more threes next game. That would help a lot. Maybe something similar to Game 5 in the Toronto series. That'd be fantastic. He had 16 that game.
The one expectation I do have, and I'll be extremely disappointed if I'm wrong, is I expect some energy in Game 3. I expect a good start.
Yeah.
I expect Danny to make a couple threes early. Let's just play. Especially if Joel's not out there, man. Everybody's counting us out anyway.
Right.
And let's
Nothing
just
to
prove
lose.
it. Let's play like there's nothing to lose. Let's win one for the big fella, please. As much as he deserves something to be done for him on this team, it's for us to win one game without him. And again, we don't know the timetable. If we go down 0-3, I don't know. I saw someone that said Joel shouldn't come back, and I kind of agree.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And
I agree wholeheartedly.
but if we can steal one and Joel's healthy, it's not over. It's not over. Is it looking good? Absolutely not. But I'm not giving up. And it's not over. Let's go make some freaking shots. Let's get some help. And let's go win the basketball game, man. Let's do this. Nothing to lose.
Very well said. Very, very picture perfect to put a nice cherry on top of our discussion.
Let's go. It's
go.
Little heated discussion, man, because we're mad, we're angry, and we're freaking ready for Game 3. Tipping off tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. I don't even know what channel, but I'll be watching 7 o'clock.
Probably ABC, I guess.
Probably ABC on a Friday, yeah. So let's get it rolling. Let's go Sixers, and we'll see you next time.
Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Planet 76 Podcast. Please consider subscribing. It helps us out a lot and lets you know that you enjoy what we post. So thank you, and peace out.